All right, YouTube, here we are. Finally, the big Persian army showcase. Been holding off on doing it for a few weeks, even though the miniatures have been fully complete for about 3 weeks now. I finished them in April. I had the game with Holy Diver that dug into it, and just busting them all out to do the video because it's a decently sized army, so it's a decent amount of work to get them all out and displayed, ready for a video of this magnitude. So here they are. We'll start off with how big the army is. We got 411 miniatures on the dot. I did the final tally just now on the miniatures. The army consists of Persian elements. So, as many of you all know, Persian armies made up of a lot. Persia, the Achaemenid Persian Empire, was made up of a lot of nationalities. You would have seen Indians, you would have seen Thracians, you would have seen a lot of Greeks fighting as mercenaries, you would have seen Egyptians. Um, I don't have any of that present. I'm currently painting some Thracians as we speak that can be used with Persians or Greeks or successors or by themselves. And that'll be a small army within itself. But they're not included here, either the Greeks, because the Greeks are going to be a standalone army. But when I do battles that need to have the foreign nationalities in them, they'll be included. And that also includes the Indians. I plan on doing an entire classical Indian army by itself. So that won't be included in here. Now, there are two exceptions. I did include units that would likely only be used primarily with these armies, and that would be my Scythian horse maidens. These are female horse archers from Scythia. I'm not doing any more Scythian units. I'm not doing a Scythian army. So I thought it was best that they laid with this army. Now, I could use them with Greeks as well. Greeks did use Scythian mercenaries here and there. And then the Lycaean or Lycian Marines or Javelin men, they are a part of this army as well. Likewise, I could use those with successor armies or with Alexander the Great once he finally did conquer Anatolia, because that's where they're from. But they primarily would fit in with the Achaemenid army, so I chose to include them here. So, with that out of the way, explaining how the army is built, we got 411 Persians. These are primarily Persians. I thought the army was in a good state, and then I have already ordered another unit of 24 early immortals from Thistle and Rose. I know I have an issue, I have a problem, but when I was playing Thermopylae with Holy Diver, I was like, dang, it'd really be nice if I had another unit of early immortals. So I of course went out and bought some. So the army at the end of the day likely will be larger. I think I'd like to add, I only have 4 units of cavalry, and I think 5 since the Achaemenids were pretty cavalry heavy. I think if I had a unit of actual Persian or median horse archers in addition to the Scythian horse maidens, that'd be really cool. So the army will likely grow by another 36 to 48 miniatures if I had to guess. So it'll be approaching, when all's said and done, I'm sure it'll be around 500-ish, give or take. So as far as the manufacturer's presence, before I go into the individual sections and components of the army, we are about 56 or 50%-ish Victrix. So I don't even know how many spearmen and archer sets from Victrix I bought, but it was more than one, that's for sure. I bought both unarmored spearmen, armored spearmen. I think I bought 2 each of the. I think I bought 3 unarmored, 2 armored, and then 1 or 2 sets of unarmored archers, and then I bought 1 each of the cavalry sets, the light and the heavy. So, needless to say, I bought a crap ton of stuff from Victrix, hundreds of miniatures from Victrix. The other big component of the army is actually going to be Foundry and Polemark. So they probably make up the bulk of the rest of that 50%. I have most of the commands are from Foundry, and then the horse maidens are from Foundry, and one of the unit of the Kardaka are also Foundry. So that I'm pretty sure I got all that. Oh, and the casualties are Foundry, of course. Can't forget the casualties. So that's the Foundry component of the army, and then from Polemark, one unit of the cavalry is from Polemark. Two of the chariots are from Polemark, and the Lycian javelin men / Marines, they are also from Polemark. So they make 20% of the army, not quite as much as the Foundry stuff. And then the last 10% of the army is going to be from Crusader and Warlord and War Games Atlantic. So I have been collecting this army, collecting it, not painting it, for over 2 years, almost 3 probably. And when I decided I was going to do a Persian army, War Games Atlantic had not released their set, and Vitrix definitely had not released their set. So I garbled up some Warlord game stuff, which essentially amounted to 16 archers because that's all they had. They were discontinuing that line, and I garbled up the last of it, it would seem. So the miniatures weren't great. I regret buying them. I wish I had known War Games Atlantic and Vitrix were coming out with sets, because I just probably would have waited. But I didn't. I got some of the Warlord stuff. They're painted. I painted them up as nicely as can be, but at the end of the day, they kind of suck. The War Games Atlantic stuff came out before the Vitrix. So, of course, as soon as that happened, I bought a box of them. I waited a little while to paint it up, and then while I was painting them up, the Vitrix stuff started to come out. Because what they do is they usually will release like the unarmored, then the archers, then the armor, then the cat. They release in waves, is what I'm getting at. And so I'm a big Vitrix fan. So once that happened, I didn't buy any more of the War Games Atlantic, primarily because I felt the quality was a little bit less than Vitrix. It was a 40-man box, great price, but there was no real commands in there. And some of the details like the armor and the sword sheaths left a little bit to be desired. So needless to say, Vitrix was the primary effort for the army. So the army I started in October of 2021, and then I finished it April of 2023. To be fair, I didn't just paint these. I also worked on some World War II guys. Probably painted about 50 of those during that time period, and then I probably painted another 50 Romans during that time when I needed breaks from the project. In addition to that, I switched jobs about a third of the way through the army. I switched jobs in 2022. And I didn't paint for 2 or 3 months. That was just lost production time. So had those things not occurred, I think we're looking at a total time of a year. But it's more like 18, 19 months to get the army. Whoop, knocking the tripod there, sorry. To get the army at its current finished state. So I'll go through the units here. I got them busted down thematically by the types of units they are. And we'll start from my left. I guess your guys is right to left. And we'll just go through and we'll just show everything off, and we'll do a quick pause. All right, so this is obviously the mounted part of the army. So you got the cavalry in front of you. Up front and center is the Great King with his, his charioteer, who's also his, I like to dub his cock warmer. It gets lonely on campaigns, and, when you're the Great King, you need some booty to follow you. You're constantly having to worry about being assassinated by your brothers and your generals and countless rebellions within your realm. So you need to let off some steam somehow, and that's by having some, plentiful amounts of ass walking about. So that's that one. That's a combination from Foundry. I used one of their Persepolis Guards figures to represent the Great King. Then I used an Amazon figure for the Charioteer. And then also for the chariot and horses as well. I did them in purple. I wanted them to look regal and Persian. So that was kind of the thought on that. The two scythe chariots are from Polemark. Very fiddly kits, but I love them. They turned out great. I like the way they looked. I like the dichotomy of the red and blue with the bronze and the iron armor. No complaints there. I don't think you could have a Persian army without having some chariots. So that is in there. Moving up, we'll try and get it a little bit closer there. Moving up, we have a Foundry command solo command figure, and you can kind of see how I thematically do it. He can be used as a hero or important character in WAB, or as a commander figure. This is also a Foundry figure. He's in a half-barded horse, so I put him with the heavy proto-cataphractari type guys here. These are supposed to be heavy Cappadocian cavalrymen, probably for the successor period. But they looked very Persian-esque to me, so I've pushed them into that role. I think they fit fine. Great miniatures. I loved this Polemark cavalry unit. Absolutely loved painting it. I think it is my favorite unit in the army. I have a few favorites, but yeah, this one is. I gave them a lot of love and attention because I really enjoyed painting them. And then going back, we have the commander / hero for the light cavalry, and he's also a Foundry. And then behind him is a 12-man unit of armored cavalry with javelins. Not barded horses that are Vitrix, and then behind that are unarmored Median cavalry with javelins as well, no armor. And then behind them is the Horse Maidens. I've shown them off before. I'll just tilt the tripod. Boop, 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 boop. But yeah, you can see them back there. Most of them have their titties hanging out. I gave them a lot of love as well. I had to repaint them, oddly enough, because I messed them up initially, but we got them there. They're horse archers, so I got them in horse skirmish formation type. So the bases are essentially twice as large, 2 on a 50 by 100 as opposed to 2 on a 50 by 50. So I think that fits pretty well because they're all in action poses, drawing arrows and shooting arrows, except for the standard bearer and the musician. So I really like the way they turned out too. I did some experimenting with various skin techniques on them. So yeah, that is the mounted part of the army. Okay, now to the early part of the army here. So these are the Sparabara units and Takabara units and the early Immortals. These can be flexed for several periods. You can use the Takabara guys for essentially anything. They're just peltast, in Greek terms, right? They're javelin men with small shields and hand weapons. And then they're all the way in the back, all Vitrix. The Sparabara unit with the yellow and orange Spara shields, that is the War Games Atlantic set. So that's 32 of the 40 War Games Atlantic. And then I used some of the few archers I had left, filled in some of the archers for one of these 2 units. I can't remember which one. But yeah, that's them. Didn't come with a command, so I actually I ordered a command figure from Essex, which, X6 is not 28 millimeters, 25 millimeters. So he's a little short. It works. It's okay. I'm not too heartbroken about it. But yeah, that's the first Sparabara unit I painted. I think it was the second unit in the army I painted after the first unit of archers. So, I was still kind of learning. And as you can see here with the formed infantry units, I kind of used a color scheme not to drive myself crazy. If I was to do it properly, quote unquote, they'd all be different colors probably. Like they'd just be a hodgepodge of colors for all 3 of the Spara units. I didn't do it like that. I just chose a grouping of colors. In this case, it was teals, oranges, and whites, and just kind of mixed with those 3 colors and then did patterns on top of that. The two up front Sparabara units, also 32 man, those are from Vitrix. And you can see there, they're also in their own distinct. I got some guys that are like various blues and reds and yellows, and then the Christmas tree guys, which are predominantly red and green with yellow. So one of them is armored and one of them's unarmored, or partially armored. So the Christmas tree guys, they have armor on the spearmen, and then everybody's unarmored on the blue guys. So, and I did their shields obviously with the pink and teal, I think is what that is. So, and you can see there, I decided to get spicy and glue some arrows to the shields, just to dress it up a little bit. So nothing too crazy. And then in front of them is the early 24-man unit of Immortals. I did these guys in various tones of purples and reds to make them look regal. Vitrix only has the one shield transfer set for the figure 8 shields. It actually kind of irks me. You only get the figure 8 shields in the heavy set, and you only get 12 per set. So it worked out for me where I had to order 2 sets anyways, that I had enough for 24-man unit. But yeah, it kind of irked me a little bit, but that's them. I do really like the way they turned out, fully armored unit. And then in front of them is the command. He's kind of just like a generic command that you can use for, I use him for the earlier period for, Mardonius. Yeah, he gets used as Mardonius sometimes. As the other figure I showed you, I like to use him as Bezos, or at least that's my idea. So, because Bezos was a cavalry commander at Galgamela, so he's kind of like my Bezos figure, and then eventually killed Darius. So there you go. So we'll go over to the third part of the army. All right, so this is the third part of the army, and this is the later period. So these guys are all going to have Aspis shields, and then we got good old Memnon of Rhodes. Definitely my favorite command. I love this command. All the commands turned out pretty good, but damn, I love this command. These are all Foundry. I decided to use, he looked very Mediized Greek to me. He's probably meant to be a successor, but he had the Corinthian helmet, he had the scale cuirass, but he had trousers on. And then I just used some extra Foundry Greek command figures I have for my Greek project that I just threw in there. And so I really like that command. But then we got the Royal Guard / late 10,000 behind them with the purple shield transfers, also done in various purples and reds, fully armored. And then we have Vitrix as well. And then also behind them is the other Kardaka unit from Vitrix in attacking poses with the little big man studio shield transfers. Great unit. These guys are unarmored. And then behind them is Foundry Kardaka with mixed armored and unarmored guys that I did in a blue-yellow pattern. And they're standing at rest. And they don't have shield transfers. I didn't have commands for them, so I ordered a couple command figures from Crusader to fill them out, because the Crusader figures generally work good with the Mark Copplestone and Steve Solis stuff. So the sculpting style isn't as pleasant; they're a little bit more simple, but size-wise they fit pretty good. And then behind them, move it just a little closer, is the Polmark Lycaean Marines 24-man unit. They are in open order, so they're on larger bases. So instead of 6 on a 40 by 60, they are 4 on a 40 by 60. So just to give them that open order look, that non-formed look. That's kind of how they are. They don't have a musician, but they do have a commander, and a standard bearer. Like the way they turned out. They are the least nice pole mark figures I have. I now have probably 50 or 60 so pole mark figures, and these Lycaean marine guys, mercenaries, were the least nice of the bunch. So I think it may have been some of the earlier stuff. I don't know. But the faces were a little wonky on them. But everything else was great on them. And then behind them are the casualties. I always do casualties on dial markers for my armies now. There's 8 there. I think 8's plenty for most games. And I just did them to match the various units that I've painted. So they just kind of match the scheme, the overall schemes of the army. And I'm sorry I'm doing this on a on a green field mat. My desert gaming mat is at Holy Divers. So I know these guys are based up in a desert theme or an arid theme, but I don't have my arid gaming mat. I just have the teddy bear, the green teddy bear one. So that's what we're rolling with today. I just decided to keep my other mats at Holy Diver's house because that's where I play games, and it's just easier that way for us just to keep him over there and use him because he has a whole basement dedicated to wargaming. So we'll get to the last part of the army and then final thoughts. All right, now we're to the last part of the army. This is the skirmishing element, and I'm not going to lie, as I was I thought they were fine until I got everything out on the table, and then I was like, I really need another unit of skirmishers. So I might do another unit of slingers or naked javelin men, maybe some like Ethiopians or Kushite guys. I don't know. Maybe some Egyptians. I don't know. I feel like I need another unit of skirmishers. But we got we got a 16-man unit of slingers, which are Vitrix, a 16-man unit of archers, which are Warlord, and then we got a 12-man unit of mix of Crusader and Vitrix. We kind of just ran out of miniatures, so they only got a 12-man unit. Honestly, I should probably get 12 more. The problem with Crusader is they sell in packs of 8, and I don't need 8. I only need 4 more. But I might just bite the bullet and do it. And then I can have figures as part of dioramas if I do elephants or anything. But yeah, that's them. And then up front, of course, my second favorite command stand after Memnon is the Great King. I like this one to be Xerxes. I like to have him be Xerxes. He has his wife, he has his sex slaves, he has his cupbearer, and then he's surrounded by his personal guard there. So all Foundry. I really enjoyed painting them as well. They're really cool to paint up. So no complaints there. But that is the army as far as the various units and the manufacturers. I'll recenter the camera and we'll go over final thoughts. So final thoughts for the project, guys. I really enjoyed painting this project. I really, really did. Sometimes I would get burnt out because painting lots of patterns can get tedious at times. But I tried not to punish myself too much. I would break it up with other projects if need to. But I just kept making steady progress on it. This is my largest army. It's over 400 miniatures, 411 to be exact. My previous largest army, I think, was my ECW army, or maybe even my Romans now, because every once in a while I'll paint up another unit of Republican Romans. And I think both those armies are sitting around 300. But this is my largest war game army at 400. I feel like it's damn near complete. I'm sure, I'm already going to add at least one more unit, probably 2 or 3 more when it's all said and done. So it's a proper big battle wargaming army. It's over 400 miniatures, in my opinion. You usually one army getting anything over 500 miniatures on the table for one side is a pretty gargantuan task. Most people keep it to 200 and under, even for big battle rules. But I feel like the army's in a really good spot. And this just represents the Persian element. When you add in Greeks, when you add in Thracians, when you add in Indians, because I am going to do a classical Indian army with lots of elephants, and those elephants were used as mercenaries in Persian armies. So there's lots of opportunities for units to be used as mercenaries in these armies. Primarily, you know, Indians and Greeks, but Thracians were also a subject to the Thracians, and Macedonians were subject to the Achaemenid Empire for a bit. At Plataea, Macedonian cavalry fought with the Persians. So there's tons of other opportunities to plus up the army. This is just the Persian component. So I'm pretty happy where it's sitting at. And that's one of the cool things about the Persian army. It was such a multi-ethnic, multinational force compared to most other forces of the era, like the Greeks. The Greeks had a little bit of that, but not a lot. So pretty happy with it. I think overall, as far as execution, painting technique, collecting, organization, this is my best army. I learned a lot of lessons with the Romans and the English Civil War armies. And I mainly got this army how I wanted it. The only exception would be, and there's no way, I didn't know when Victrix and War Games Atlantic was going to start coming out with suitable plastics. But the only things I kind of regret is buying the Warlord Archers and maybe the War Games Atlantic set. But, in hindsight, I didn't know when Victrix was releasing or if they were at all. So when they did, it was very pleasant, and it made the army even more accessible. So I think today, if you're wanting to get into Achaemenid Persians, today is a great day because you have all of the options for all of the niches of the Persians. You got your Victrix stuff that will form, the core of your army, spearmen and archers and axemen and blah, 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 and skirmishers galore and cavalry. And then you can go to companies like Polmark and Foundry to fill out the rest. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And then, of course, you have turnkey options like First Corps as well. Those are, more 25 mil older style of miniature, but they do have a complete range for everything, to include chariots, cavalry, everything. So yeah, pretty happy with it. I look forward. I've only done 2 games with the army. I look forward to many, many more. And now, in the interim, while I'm waiting for late Romans to show up, I'm painting some Persians. I still don't have any of my late Roman stuff I've ordered in the last month. But hopefully we're getting some orders from the UK soon, and I can start banging out some late Romans. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this army showcase, and I hope it at least helped somebody out or gave some inspiration to somebody, or was just plain enjoyable for y'all to look at. I love seeing people's army showcases. So till next time, guys, keep on painting.